is Rebuilding and Consolidating Nigeria's Steel Industry, Collaborative Action for Sustainable Growth and Global Competitiveness in Abuja, Obialari, Radio Nigeria.
The Delta State government says the administration is taking measures to upskill the number of people in the state social register as part of efforts to address the increasing number of residents in the poverty net due to economic shocks. The Commissioner for Economic Planning, Dr. Moniya, stated this in Asaba at the stakeholders engagement meeting on National Social Safety Net Program scale-up implementation. Ogenera Bewere completes the report.
The Commissioner for Economic Planning, Dr. Moniya, noted the government, through Delta Action for Resilience and Economic Stimulus, has intensified its poverty reduction strategy, leading to a 1,000% increase in number of beneficiaries of the program.
Middle of 2023, the total number of persons was about 33,000. That number had risen to 346,000.
Commissioner for Humanitarian Affairs, Community Support Services and Girl Child Development, Brown, made remarks on key objectives of the engagement meeting on National Social Safety Net Program.
We would agree on what the immediate next steps are, our timelines for the program rollout and implementation in Delta State.
State Program Manager, National Social Safety Net Program Scale-Up, Mrs. Osharude Modupe, gave an overview of the project and observed over 10,000 households have benefited from the initiative.
The program enabled electronic end-to-end digital payments and also contributed significantly to financial inclusion.
Meanwhile, coordinator of the State Social Register, Mr. Alfred Ibrahim, gave an update on the State Social Register, pointing it contained 270,000 households and 680,000 individuals. Mr. Ibrahim hinted that many residents who fall within the poverty net are unwilling to register due to pride, thereby denying themselves the opportunity to benefit from interventionist programs of government and private sector who rely on the social register. In Asaba, Honorable Ibrahim, Radio Nigeria.
The Sultan of Sokoto Alhaji Muhammad Saad Abubakar wants Nigerians to always engage in activities that promotes fairness, unity and development. Sultan Saad Abubakar, who made the call in Abuja at a book presentation, described justice as the foundation of every society. He explained that writing about the past was the best way to promote justice and peace, which would attract blessings from Allah. The cleric appreciated a faith-based organization, Nasrullahi Al-Fatih Society, NASFAT, for its contribution to the development of the country and the propagation of Islam globally.
A lot of people are country, we cannot have peace without justice. So let's bring justice in whatever we do. Let's not ourselves the country in whatever we do. And let's be in one heart of Allah as the owner of heaven and earth. Because history must be written more before.
The president of NASFAT, Alhaji Ayodija Abdurauf, emphasized that the book reflects the vision and contributions of the organizations to nation building.
It is a written reflection of our journey from all the prayer group meeting in Lagos in the house of our current DOT chairman to a global faith-based organization impacting lives across continents. NASFAT symbolizes positive impact of a faith-based organization helping the society in promoting social welfare, education, healthcare, and moral.
A lecturer at the private university, Professor Mahfouz Abdidimeji, said the commitment of NASFAT to advancing the goals of humanity would inspire young ones to achieve greatness.
The Executive Secretary, National Human Rights Commission, Dr. Tunujuku, has called on duty bearers, especially aviation authorities, law enforcement agencies, judicial officers, as well as correctional personnel, to uphold the sanctity of human dignity. He made a call in Abuja at a news conference to address the inhumane and degrading treatment of aviation operation in Nigeria, referring to the inhumane violation meted on one Miss Comfort Emerson, a passenger who had an altercation with an airline crew. Dr. Ojukwu, who advised passengers to be law-abiding, however, urged airline operators to ensure they train the personnel periodically to ensure that they do not cause or contribute to human rights abuse.
Having proper protocols and training to handle difficult situations without resorting to inhuman and degrading treatment, whether on passengers or airline crew. The escalation training for the airport personnel would have produced different results in both incidents. The National Human Rights Commission demands a swift and decisive response from all relevant agencies to address these human rights violations arising from these incidents in line with Nigeria's human rights obligation to prevent reoccurrence.
The The executive director said the commission was ready to monitor the situation closely to ensure that the rights of Ms. Comfort Emerson, other passengers, as well as airline staff and crew members were protected and those responsible were held accountable.
This is not only in line with our national mandate as National Human Rights Commission, but also as the National Preventive Mechanism and the Secretariat of the National Working Group on Business and Human Rights. We remain committed to our mandate of protecting and promoting the human rights of all Nigerians as well as all businesses in Nigeria.
Dr. Ojukwu, however, signed a advisory opinion to the Federal Ministry of Aviation, Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria, Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, Nigeria Police Force of Nigeria Correctional Service to Section 5L, M, and O of the National Human Rights Commission Amendment Act 2010.
The National Security Advisor, NSA, Mr. Nuhu Ribadu, says the administration of President Bola Tinubu will continue to strengthen the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency as a strategic value to the success of the country's national security architecture. The NSA stated this in Abuja during the inauguration of 46 new vehicles distributed to strategic commands and formations of the NDLEA. Lucia Adele was there for Radio Nigeria.
The link between drug trafficking and insecurity is becoming more systemic in the country. Hence, the 48 new vehicles inaugurated will be deployed nationwide to amplify NDLEA's operations in ensuring more traffickers escape justice. The National Security Advisor, Malam Nuhu Ribadu, who hyped on President Bola Tinubu's strategic support on the drug war, gave an assurance that NDLEA would continue to receive full backing of his office to curb drug trafficking and illicit substance. Malam Ribadu challenged NDLEA officers to remain vigilant and uphold higher standard of professionalism.
To the dedicated officers of the NDLEA, this commissioning is a call to action, and with the support of security, law enforcement and intelligence agencies, we will continue to dismantle the networks that profit from drugs and work towards a safer and more secure Nigeria.
The Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Prince Lateef Fagbemi, while commending achievements by the leadership of General Marwa in the drug war, a move he maintained would streamline insecurity in the country.
The chairman has chronicled some of the effects of these illicit drugs, and that is why attention ought to be given to the fight against illicit drugs.
The chairman of NDLEA, retired General Buba Marwa, said the event was symbolic of the continuous effort to reposition the agency as a modern, efficient and respected organization, as well as a reflection of the sustained commitment of the president to equipping institutions that stand on the front line of the country's national security and public health.
Thank you, Mr. President, for providing the NDLEA with this vehicle, which will go a long way in boosting the motivation and performance of our officers.
In their goodwill messages, Chief of Defense Staff General Christopher Musa and the Director General of the Bureau of Public Procurement, Dr. Adebowale Adedokun, commended NDLEA for its consistent demonstration of courage, professionalism and resilience in confronting the threats posed by drugs and substance abuse in every challenging circumstances. In Abuja, Lucy Adele, Radio Nigeria.
Radio Nigeria, uplifting the people and uniting the nation.
Coach Abdurrahman Mohammed Scampbell Morrison held the Tigers' good starts to AfroBasket's PSG coach UEFA Super Cup in dramatic style after comeback. Amai is poised with the details of these and more.
Pleasant morning and welcome. Head coach of the senior men's basketball team of Nigeria, the Tigers, Abdurrahman Mohammed, says his charges were primed to win against Madagascar, and they did just that. The Tigers defeated the island nation located off the southern eastern coast of Africa in the Indian Ocean, 77-59. In their Group B opener, Caleb Agada emerged as the star player, leading the game in points, rebounds, steals, and efficiency, recording the topmost points in a game at the tournament. Coach Abdurrahman, despite the victory, admits Madagascar gave the Tigers a good test.
Against Madagascar, and that's exactly what we did. We were a bit sloppy from the beginning, but we made the necessary adjustment, and eventually we won. It was a good test for us because it's the first match for the tournament, and hopefully we keep getting better as we go along.
Kaduna State Basketball Association chairman and former captain of D Tigers, Scammer Morrison, while congratulating D Tigers, said scaling the hurdle of Tunisia and Cameroon, their next opponents, should be the focus of the players.
It was really technical. The guys from Madagascar came out very strong. I mean, look at how it ended the first half. Heavy work now is to get out of that group stage, which is going to be a tougher match between Nigeria and Tunisia, Nigeria and Cameroon. I just pray that we up our game, and then we know that the guys coming to play with us much younger than we are and more agile than we are. But in whichever way, my take is that if Nigeria can come out of this group, they will be reckoned with in the next stage.
The Tigers will next meet defending champions Tunisia, who lost their opener 65-86 to the indomitable Lions of Cameroon tomorrow. Incumbent president of the Nigerian Weightlifting Federation, Dr. Ibrahim Abdul, has made a passionate appeal for support from all stakeholders and the weightlifting family ahead of the elective Congress of the Nigerian Weightlifting Federation, NWF, which holds on Saturday in Abuja. A total of 14 candidates have been cleared by the NWF Electoral Committee to contest for various elective positions. Dr. Ibrahim Abdul is running for the election as a sole candidate. Dr. Abdul says there is still more that he has to offer to truly make Nigeria one of the best in the sport.
I want everybody to continue to support me, to give me the chance to do what I'm doing. We are not finished product yet. We have a point where we want to reach. We've not reached there yet. When we reach there, it will be very clear for the world to see.
The 2025 NWF Electoral Congress will hold at the Gymnasium Bowl, Pocket B of the Moshura Biola National Stadium, Abuja. The Nigerian Football Federation, NFF, has endorsed the Samokwaraji Under-16 football tournament in honor of the late Nigerian football legend. Samuel Okwaraji died on August 12, 1989 during the FIFA World Cup qualifying game between Nigeria and Angola in Lagos. During the World Press Conference, head of the organizing committee and convener, Senator Osita Izunaso, representing Imo West constituency of Imo State, said, aside mentoring the younger generation through sports and education, the main objective is to keep the legacy of Sam Okwaraji.
The theme of our tournament and the Samokwaraji Memorial Lecture is patriotism, education, and soccer. It's a befitting tribute to his remarkable life. We believe that education and sports can be powerful tools for nation building, and we hope to inspire young people to emulate Okwaraji's example.
Former Director General of the National Sports Commission and a member of the organizing committee, Dr. Amos Adamu, said the championship will serve as a remembrance of the late Sam Okwaraji commitment to the country.
When Sam died, it seemed that he was forgotten, but it's better late than never. And this tournament that we are about to start, it will translate his name. Nigeria will remember him, and Nigeria is still the right thing for a patriot like him.
Present at the briefing were NFF Technical Director Austin Agbovon, a teammate of late Okwaraji who was on the pitch on that fateful day, and Samson Siasia. In matches decided yesterday at the Chan tournament in Group B, Madagascar defeated Central African Republic 2-0. Mauritania beat Burkina Faso 1-0. Tanzania lead the 5-team group after 3 rounds of matches on 9 points, while Mauritania, with 4 games played so far, have 7 points to stay in second place. Today in Group A, Morocco will take on Zambia, while Angola faces DR Congo. And finally, in the UEFA Super Cup, France, Paris Saint-Germain beat Tottenham Hotspur of England 4-3 on penalties after a 2-2 draw in normal time in the 2025 UEFA Super Cup. The match was played at Blue Negi Stadium in Udine, Italy, where Spurs claimed a 2-goal lead. Parisians pulled one back in the 85th minute before leveling 4 minutes into injury time to tip the game to score kicks. Paris Saint-Germain won the last season's UEFA Champions League while beating Inter Milan 5-0 in the final. They were also the vice champions of the FIFA Club World Cup. Spurs beat Manchester United 1-0 in the final of the UEFA Europa League. That's our package this morning. I am Arma Ignis. Thanks for being there and have a swell day ahead.
The commentary is on reducing the burden of malaria in the country. It is written by Muhammad Awal of our Current Affairs Unit.
Malaria remains one of the most pressing public health challenges of our time, affecting millions of people, particularly in tropical and subtropical regions. Malaria has a devastating impact on communities worldwide. The disease is a major burden on healthcare systems, economies, and societies, perpetuating poverty and hindering economic development in affected communities. Moreover, malaria is a significant threat to the health and well-being of vulnerable populations, including children, pregnant women, and people living with HIV and AIDS. Furthermore, the burden of malaria is not limited to the health sector alone. It also has significant economic and social implications. The disease can lead to loss in productivity, reduced economic growth, and increased poverty, making it a major obstacle to development in many countries. A study by the World Health Organization, WHO, found out that malaria can reduce economic growth by up to 1.3% in some countries. Additionally, the disease can also have a significant impact on education, as children who suffer malaria are more likely to miss school, leading to poor academic performance. Despite the significant burden of malaria, progress has been made in reducing malaria cases and deaths over the past 2 decades. According to the WHO, between 2000 and 2019, malaria incidence rates decreased by 27% globally, and malaria mortality rates decreased by 44%. These gains are attributed to the scale-up of malaria control interventions, including the distribution of insecticide-treated bed nets, indoor residual spraying, and the use of artemisinin-based combination therapies. For instance, in Nigeria, the distribution of insecticide-treated nets, ITNs, has been instrumental in reducing malaria cases and deaths, particularly among children under the age of 5. However, many challenges remain in the fight against malaria. Insecticide resistance, limited access to healthcare, and inadequate funding are some of the key challenges that needs to be addressed. Insecticide resistance, in particular, is a major concern as it can reduce the effectiveness of ITNs and indoor residual spraying, IRS, which are critical components of malaria control efforts. Moreover, limited access to healthcare is another significant challenge, particularly in rural and hard-to-reach areas, where healthcare facilities may be scarce or non-existent. Nevertheless, these challenges also present opportunities for innovation and collaboration in the fight against malaria. In recent years, new diagnostic tools such as rapid diagnostic tests, RDTs, and innovative vector control strategies such as gene-derived technologies have been developed to combat malaria. These new tools and strategies offer promising solutions to the challenges faced in malaria control. For example, RDTs have improved the accuracy and speed of malaria diagnosis, while gene-derived technologies have the potential to reduce the population of malaria-carrying mosquitoes. Furthermore, community-based interventions, such as community-led distribution of ITNs and IRS, have also been shown to be effective in reducing malaria transmission. For the fight against malaria to be won in the country, it requires increased funding, improved access to healthcare, and community engagement. Governments, international organizations, and the private sector must invest in malaria control and work together to address the challenges. By working together, the burden of malaria can be reduced. The fight against malaria requires a sustained effort and commitment from governments, international organizations, and communities. By so doing, we can achieve a malaria-free world and ensure that everyone has access to its prevention, diagnosis, and treatment. Let us unite in our efforts to combat malaria and make a commitment to eliminating this disease once and for all.
Mariam Okesanjo with our commentary on reducing the burden of malaria in the country, as written by Muhammad Awal.
All right, then let's go straight to Cyberscope. Bring you top stories making waves online. Comfort Emerson has been trending on social media for the third consecutive day following her dramatic altercation aboard Ibadan Air after a clash with security operators. What started as an in-flight of disagreement spiraled into her arrest and detention at a correctional facility. Well, she has regained freedom after an Ikeja High Court discharged her case. As expected, social media split. Some believe her arrest and altercation or incarceration were justified, while others argued that the air hostess and security personnel should face similar consequences for the poor handling of that incident.
Right now, we don't even know the narrative to believe, but for me, I believe there are three witnesses there. The primary one, which is supposed to be the inbuilt aircraft's camera, but there's so many issues about privacy issues as to why there shouldn't be an aircraft camera. And then the people on site, the secondary ones, and the social media users, the tertiary, I would say. Well, Naira Marley's name has resurfaced online conversation after Nigeria began comparing him to Fuji legend Form 1. This comes after the Ministry of Aviation appointed Form 1 as an aviation security protocol ambassador following an incident where he attempted to stop an aircraft from taxiing. His 6 months of flight ban was also reduced to 1 month. And critics point out the irony, recalling how in 2023 the NDLEA controversially enlisted Naira Marley as an ambassador for its anti-drug abuse campaign. Many Nigerians feel Form 1 should have faced prosecution instead of being rewarded, while Comfort Emerson was allegedly made a scapegoat.
Let's just leave that one there. Well, music executive Ubi Franklin is facing online hit after being accused of stealing a luxury wristwatch at Davido's wedding in Miami. The allegation began when Tupac vaguely tweeted that a former music exec took the watch and damage control was underway. Davido's brother quoted the post, giving it credibility. Blogger Brucey Ballo then named Ubi Franklin directly. Although Ubi has denied the accusation and shared screenshots in his defense, blogger QT insists he is lying and has threatened to release proof if he doesn't stop spinning the story. We'll leave that one there too. It's just for the online bloggers and saying you are not accused, don't accuse. Anyway, that's the Cyberscope from us today. Let's keep the conversation going. Connect with us, Radio Nigeria. That's at Radio Nigeria using the hashtag Cyberscope. This was compiled by Moniya. What does the paper say? All right.
Okay, this morning beginning with the blueprint, which screens the headline. FEC approves 493 billion for Kano Katsina Road and then Carter Bridge. OK's 13 billion with and then a $34 million transmission transformer upgrades. And also it has FG holds establishment of new tertiary institutions for 7 years. Says 199 universities got less than 100 job applicants. 34 had 0 last year, with 295 polytechnics with less than 99, and then colleges of educations recorded poor enrollment.
All right, moving to leadership news. But the bold one here, reactions as Tinubu orders review of revenue retention by NNPCL. Others, page 4 has the story. The rider directs reassessment of oil companies, 30% management fee, 30% frontier exploration deduction. Remember, page 4 has the gist. Another headlines here. I'm still in pain. Freedom Air passenger Emerson says he has riders K1's ban reduced. Emerson released on Keyama's intervention. After Keyama's intervention, Emerson released after Keyama's intervention, and he also had this rider. Freed lady offered 500,000 naira job. How true is this? Page 7 has the gist. Other headline, jam to screen over 500 underage candidates. September, page 8 has the gist. Leadership newspaper today.
And over to Daily Trust, which has this one. Tinubu on third visit to Brazil in 9 months. You can get that story on page 3 and 4. And marketers to July fix Port Harcourt refinery or resign. And that story is on page 28. Poverty, hunger, driving Sokoto children out of school. And FG funding 2024 capital projects with 2025 revenue DG budget. You can find that page on those stories on page 6 and 10 respectively.
Okay.
Daily Trust.
All All right, the Vanguard has these ones. Quam 1, comfort bomb, lawyers, aviation experts blast FG, page 5 of the G's. It has several riders. Go check it out. Reforms, FG targets 7% economic growth rate by 2027. We also have that page 8 has the story. You also have this one. UK to deport foreign criminals immediately after sentencing. Page 7 has that one. Invasion of Obasanjo Library to sue EFCC demands 3.5 billion naira compensation. Page 10 has the story. And we also have this one, so from the Vanguard. Page 31, FEC orders ministers to forward list of products to BPP for scrutiny. That's the Vanguard newspaper, and that's it for newspaper headlines this morning. Let's tell you what the weather will be like. Thunderstorms with moderate rains are expected over the entire northern region during the afternoon and evening hours, with high possibility of flood occurring over parts of Bauchi, Gombe, Kaduna, and Kano states during the day. Also, thunderstorms with moderate rains are expected over the entire north central region, and high possibility of flood occurring over parts of the Federal Capital Territory, Nasarawa, Niger, and Plateau states during the period. Cloudy skies are expected over the region, with prospects of light rains to affect parts of Oyo, Ondo, Ekiti, Osun, Edo, and Lagos states during the morning period. That's what the report for you.
And to the news, here's a recap of the major stories. President Bola Tinubu will today embark on a 2-day trip to Japan and Brazil, with a stopover in Dubai, United Arab Emirates, before proceeding to Japan. The Federal Executive Council has imposed a 7-year suspension on the establishment of federal tertiary institutions as the Nigerian economy now attracts local and foreign investors. The House of Representatives Committee on NG Cares has commenced investigation into the implementation of the $696 million, equaling 1.06 trillion Nigeria Community Action for Resilience and Economic Stimulus (NG Cares) social intervention program of the federal government. We also reported that the Ministry of Steel Development has set a target to achieve 10 million tons of solid steel by 2030 and generate 500,000 jobs for youth in the country.
That's the news. Edited by Abubakar Bestu and the production team. My colleague has been
David Imo.
And I am Harriet Adams. Thank you so much for listening. Stay tuned. Politics Nationwide is next. And Jeremiah Jame is standing by.
Devoid of ethnic and class differences, millions of people from across the world converge on the holy city of Mecca for the Muslim pilgrimage.
This is the largest United Nations, United Tribes, United Cultures, United Races meeting every year.
Young and old, rich and poor, irrespective of gender, perform the Hajj rites the same way and at the same time.
I'm standing on the 4th floor of the mighty building, the mighty edifice, housing 3 mighty pillars, and on each of the days of the turning of the devil, over 3 million people gather here to perform the religious act.
Join us on the largest radio network in Africa, the network service of Radio Nigeria, every Friday at 4 p.m. for Hajj, a spiritual journey, an enlightenment program on the pilgrimage, brought to you by the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria.
In a world where more is brought to you by the Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria. It's the only radio network in Nigeria. The network that attracts over 40 million high net worth individuals. Unarguably, the only radio channel that draws key decision makers through incisive and up-to-date news, scintillating sportscasting, and exciting programming. Radio Nigeria Network.
Amuludun FM ìtàwọn Yorùbá 99.1 ní òkè láwà. Kápolówó ọjà kájẹ́ bùbájẹ́ bùbájẹ́ ní òkè láwà. Ìròyìn lẹ́kùnrẹ́rẹ́ tó lọ́lọ́kọ̀ wà ní òkè láwà. Orin agbọ́dúnú gbígbà ṣàlàyé ní òkè láwà. Amuludun FM Moniya láwà ní òkè ní òkè láwà.
Òtítọ́ ni ó jàre òkè òkè náà láwà.